How to improve aim in Team Fortress 2. This topic has been covered repeatedly, but it's always covered quite poorly. In this video, I will mostly cover meta things centered around aim for both sniper and aim in general in TF2, as those are really the only thing a guide can help you with. First, we need to go over settings. In Windows 10, go to mouse settings, then click on additional mouse settings, then go to pointer options. And if enhance pointer precision is checked, make sure to uncheck it. This setting makes your cursor change speed the further you move it in a shorter amount of time. We want that distance to always be the same. Usually this will only be a problem with laptops because touchpads are just too slow without it. Some manufacturers just automatically enable it then. If you had this on, you will feel bad at aiming for a bit after turning it off because you were correcting for it before. Give it about 2 hours to subconsciously fix this in your hand-eye coordination. By the way, this is just their new name for mouse acceleration in Windows 10. Next, in TF2 settings, under options and then mouse, make certain mouse acceleration is also turned off there. And also make certain that raw input is on. Raw input means your mouse software will do some work interpolating where your mouse should be, but raw input is always more precise than the software. If this setting is turned off, it will always hurt you. And with this, unlike mouse acceleration, you'll take the gains immediately. You don't have to unlearn for hours. Next, make certain every game you play uses equivalent sensitivity where possible. For this, you first need to know your mouse DPI. The best way to find this is in your mouse's software, so I can't help with every specific mouse. After you find the DPI, check your TF2 sensitivity, or if you play another game frequently, check that game's sensitivity. Then just type into Google for a converter between the games you play and convert the sensitivity. For example, TF2 to Overwatch sensitivity converter. Input your DPI, then put in your sensitivity. That way, you train your precision with your mouse much faster. Similarly, if you're looking to improve aim for sniper, you need to make certain your scoped sensitivity is the same across game. As best as I can tell, TF2's scoped sensitivity is extremely stupid and depends on aspect ratio of your screen, which is really dumb design, but it comes most closely to 79.3% if your FOV is set to the maximum of 90 with a normal monitor, which you better make sure you did already. You set your FOV to 90 as it will let you see more. If you use an ultra wide monitor or a small aspect ratio monitor, I can't help you there. This is way more complex a problem than I'd get into. Instead, I would recommend to everyone that if you play other shooter games, rather than changing those games to suit TF2, which is kind of dumb like that, when adding master config to your setup, click the box that says 1:1 zoom sensitivity. This is just a mod that changes the zoom sensitivity. Then it should be easy to make other games the same. This will take time to get used to as it is an entirely different sensitivity. Usually for me, it takes around 4 hours for my hand-eye coordination to adjust. I have a tutorial on setting that up and improving FPS. I will add a link to the top right of your screen. Also note that this will be nigh to impossible for some games that have different types of scopes, such as Escape from Tarkov. So yeah, this isn't just always doable. Now, let's talk about computer hardware. Lower ping will make targets easier to hit, which is dependent on how strong your internet is and the location of the server. It's actually a lot more complex than that, but this covers 95% of it for most people. Most of the time, people already have the best internet for their area, so I'm just gonna skip that. If you have internet problems, you gotta take it up with your internet service provider. Next, frames per second is the most important. This is how often your monitor displays a new frame for you to see. Most monitors cap this at 60 frames per second. You can check this by going to Steam, the Steam button in the top left, settings, in-game, then go to the in-game FPS counter and change it to whatever corner you would like it to be displayed in. I put it in the top left. If this number is below 60 at any point in time, you need to install master config, which I was also talking about earlier, which reduces in-game textures and fixes some bugs that slow down TF2. It will improve your average FPS by about 2 times and your minimum 0.1% FPS by about 1.5 times, which is the most important, because if your frame rate dips from say 100 average to 8 frames per second for 2 seconds, that's really bad. Just click the question mark at the top right of your screen if you would like to install that, and then I have a video guide for you there. Should be pretty easy to follow. Additionally, if you're willing to spend money, you can buy better computer hardware to speed this up further. I would recommend watching Linus Tech Tips channel if you need help on those decisions, as they're incredibly complex and he covers them well. And they have great testing for that sort of thing, so you can get into all the nitty-gritty parts of it. You can also buy a monitor with a higher frame rate display to make this even better. I personally play with a 240 Hz monitor, which allows for 240 frames per second to be displayed. At the time that I got this, I played a lot of Overwatch, and when I switched over to a high frame rate monitor at the time back in, I think it was season 4, I went from 3900 season rating to 4400, which was enough to bring me from Masters to top 500, and then I dropped back out of top 500 before the end of the season. Linus Tech Tips did testing on how much this will help improve aim on a few players of varying skill levels, including Shroud, who's probably top 10 overall in first-person shooter aim worldwide, and found that it helps newer players more so with 240 Hz versus 60 Hz, although it obviously helps everyone. This is more complex than what I can explain in a video here, and is only accessible to people with a lot of money to spend, as it takes top-of-the-line hardware to achieve this frame rate. So I'll go ahead, I'll link to the Linus Tech Tips video on the subject in the description. Also note that higher frame rate will improve your aim even without a higher frame rate monitor. Basically, the game calculates your mouse position more times if your frame rate is higher, regardless of monitor frame rate. You will not get the full benefits of a higher frame rate, but it's nice to get what you can for free out of it at least, right? Next, your mouse. This also costs money to improve. A mouse with a better refresh rate, overall shape, and weight will help improve your aim. I recommend watching Rocket Jump Ninja's videos if you need help buying a new mouse, as he is extremely experienced in the subject. And he's a Quake pro. The original Team Fortress was a Quake mod, so this will translate pretty well. I will leave a link to his channel in the description also. He can cover everything on this subject better than I can, so I'll leave that part at that. And finally, train in your aim. I've watched a few other TF2 videos on this subject, and many of them tell players to train their aim on bots that move randomly. This is a foolish way to train. Much of what aim is predicting where your opponent will be when you move your mouse cursor. I would recommend you just play more, ideally against the skill level you want to play again. If you want to train to kill competitive players the best, play more competitive. Same thing goes for casual. You might notice when you play that certain players are extremely hard to hit, particularly extremely high skill players and extremely low skill players, as their movement is abnormal and thus hard to predict. So that's really why you need to train on what you're trying to be good at. Also, do not think about where you aim while you're aiming, other than a few more general things like where you hide your sniper dot. I mean, you have to do that. It's got to be natural, otherwise your aim and general game sense is just going to get much worse. You're going to be focusing on it too much. That's why I won't talk about specific aim styles, as it will generally just make you significantly worse at the game by overthinking it. So if you've done all these things, you got all your settings squared away, your frame rate, you've got master config installed, you're ready to go, just play more sniper and you'll get better at it, or whatever other class you're trying to aim better with. And that's all. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe for more.